week to next week. So that's the attitude that Cloud9 has, and it's been so successful for them this split.
So, Jad, it's been a while since we've seen these guys play. Back to week 1 of the summer split is the first time they battled it out when Meteos was going 5 straight on his games on Zach. We'll see if he brings it out here again, but we'll see if Team Solomid has used that time to bolster up some new strategies here.
And Cloud9 loves sitting on the blue side because they're a team more than other that will channel into a small subset of champions, which are the Jace, Twisted Fate, Elise, and Nunu actually is something Meteos doesn't like playing, but they were willing to first pick earlier. We're also on the 3.9 patch, just another reminder. So we didn't mention it in the big list, but Nunu has been nerfed down a little bit, so he's not quite as overpowering. We'll see if TSM decides to do an Elise ban here and let the Nunu through.
Looking out for Team Solomid's last ban. Looks like Xpecial is discussing this with the team. The rest of them, then Elise does come up for there. So Balls, sometimes picking for himself.
Yeah.
I'd say it's kind of 50-50 there.
And a lot of that had to do with the champions getting through. This was going to be the great choice because TheOddOne is the original Nunu, and it got through without being picked or banned. So even though it's been nerfed down a little bit, that was the choice there about whether Meteos wants to deal with TheOddOne's Nunu or whether they just want to let Balls pick for himself, as you were saying.
Well, Nunu is going to mean that they're wanting to be aggressive. When we've seen that's what has hindered Cloud9 the most is they deal with it, but they can't deal with it as well as anything else in the game is early aggression.
And teams that can extend the laning phase as well. It's more about just countering their aggression because there was actually a great jungle timer chart that went up on like cloth5.com website where Meteos spends more time than any other jungler in a 3v1 lane, so joining the duo lane and pushing down, whereas a jungler like Big Fat LP spends more time than anyone else in a 2v2 lane defending against that. So whether TSM decides to opt into that 3v1 push game or counter it is still yet to be seen.
We'll have to see what they can do. It ain't easy being green on the side of Team Solomid as they lock in Zach and Thresh for a pretty much lockdown composition. They'll definitely have the initiation.
And this also kind of ruins our whole other Nunu point because they're just picking it completely away from Cloud9. They did not want Meteos to have Zach, and it's actually surprising that Meteos didn't first pick it in that circumstance unless they were too worried about Dyrus taking Rumble. So, as we said, these teams know each other very well, and they're just going back and forth trying to steal picks.
And very fight-esque, if you will. Every team's a fight team, but this one says we can either kite you or completely just dive onto you with a giant arrow. So, I like this. High goes on to his patented Zed that he loves to play oh so much, and we'll see him definitely making some 1v1 assassination plays.
And he took it away from Reginald in a sense, too. Reginald has played a fair bit of that in the past. There's a small chance, I feel like Reginald would break out of LeBlanc here. Super small chance, just because LeBlanc has received a lot of changes. And Reginald, way back at the start of the spring split, was drawing LeBlanc bans in multiple games, especially the first one against COG. But obviously they haven't decided to go with it yet. Well, I guess they're back to picking again.
The double vein composition. This is going to be nice. And by double vein, I mean obviously the Yorick ultimate coming out. So spells super late game for TSM here.
Especially just trying to get WildTurtle going. It's almost harkening back to his solo queue WildTurtle carry the game, which is not something that TSM actually relies on WildTurtle to do that frequently. I wouldn't be too surprised if Reginald picked something very high damage here.
As well.
Maybe like Karthus, even though it's a very tough laning phase against a Zed, just so they have multiple persistent threats, maybe even Cassiopeia, because then they can clone both things.
I was just going to say that.
The last one.
The machine gunner.
Yeah.
I knew you were coming out with it as well, but yeah, as you usually say in fights, you know, the AD carry goes down, but if that AD carry goes down, focus on Rise, because you're going to get just about the same amount of damage consistently.
Because this is the kind of hole that some Yorick comps run into if they can only clone one person, because if the team either just focuses down that clone or is very careful about how they position, but as soon as you can clone two different threats, which is Rise, who will have persistent damage. And the big thing about the Yorick comp is the person you clone has to be able to put up high DPS independent and irregardless of their ultimate cooldown, which is what TSM has accomplished here.
And recently, you know, we've seen a bit more Zyra, which the discussion of how much she can zone, how much she can stop the dives, and that's really stopped with the Zac initiation, the Thresh hooks coming in. They can stop that, more disengage. And
it's a control composition now for Cloud9. They have very strong mid line, so they should have positioning advantages in most of these team fights. Once again, LemonNation just going for that Zyra, one of the only people in North American LCS to do so.
We'll have to see what they can do. There he is on your screen. LemonNation to, again, bring out the strategies for his team. We'll have to see what they go. If they want the 2v1 lane, Lemon, he has expressed in the past that he still does like the 2v2. He likes to be strategic in the lane. But Sneaky also loves to take people down. So they could go with either. They like to really mix it up.
In most situations, they do the 2v1.
Right.
Just because
right.
Meteos likes to push down the lanes very quickly.
I mean, soak up that.
But this is another situation because they're against TSM, the team that is the most familiar with them of all the teams in North America. That's when you have to start mixing it up. So we really could see anything from those lanes.
It's crazy to think that, we say Vulcan, right, can play most of the champions that these guys play, and they give them the hardest time. But there's the other aspect of we scrim you all the time. And even High said himself that if he falters in mid lane and Reginald takes that, that usually results in the loss for them. So we'll have to see how that mid lane goes. We are on to the Rift, our first matchup of the day, Cloud9 versus Team Solomid. Here as we get into Week 6.
And I don't see anything giant coming out at level 1 except that red elixir from High, who's going to be looking to make some plays happen very early with that. He's had his struggles with the red elixir so far this season. One time he just popped it right at the very start of the game, just by accident. High's got hyper fingers sometimes, and they all ran out mid lane just to see each other. So this has a lot of impact on whether or not teams are willing to go deep invade at level 1.
Cloud9 knowing they're hatching a ward right now on that left side of the bush, but power in numbers, just going to allow both teams to waltz in the direction they would like. And they're going to get these early wards down so the lanes can stay a bit safer.
And the thing with this is both teams know exactly where the other team's vision is now because they saw each other in mid lane. TSM walked straight into Cloud9's red jungle, and Cloud9 did the same to TSM. So they really just traded vision of their red jungle because they wanted to.
And this is going to mix things up as well because showing everybody in mid so quickly, right? They still have quite a bit of time before minions spawn, before they have to guard something. But are they going to leave the AD carry mid? Do we have to switch this up now? The laning phase is already kind of not mixed up, but they're considering it.
They're at least getting to see, based on where the wards are and the alternate teams' red buffs, that might be where they're seeing the action. I don't think that's going to have a huge influence on where the lanes are going. It's going to be mostly guesswork from here if they're trying to get the 2v1s or if they're trying to get the 1v2s.
Something to already start weighing on the minds of the players. But right now, Reggie just working with a few issues. I think he had some troubles with his ping, so we're just seeing that. May have to just get him reloaded into the game, get that all fixed up. You can see the team, WildTurtle, not really smiling yet, but we always talk to these guys, and they say, yes, morning is a bit of the harder time to play. Wake up, it is afternoon now, but these guys get here early, and they get practice in, so...
And that's one of the challenges for slack. It's a challenge for some of these guys because they scrim so much. And then also solo queue afterwards. And since some of these guys try to keep streaming schedules, I know when I was going on Monday, actually, is when I went down to Cloud9 to visit High. I woke up for my flight in the morning at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and I saw a tweet from High be like, been up streaming all night. This is great. Come tune in. I was like, oh, man. He's not going to be awake when we get there. But he was. He persevered. He was up in 4 hours and gave a great interview after that. But it's because these guys do have those strange sleeping schedules because of streaming. And
they're going to get even stranger. With finals coming up and whatnot, I've even been seeing more tweets on social media, or just Facebook on social media, that are like, maybe we'll stream in a few. Actually, an hour later, teams deciding to scrim. We're going to get more practice in. So these guys are really buckling down and trying to get as much as they can in. Back into the game here. Looks like we got everything fixed up for Reggie, and we are back. Cloud9 looks to make a bit of an aggressive move here after that dance off in middle.
And now they're pinging them walking through, which is why we had to pause. Unfortunately, Reginald's ping button wasn't working. All fixed. I think you mentioned that as well. Just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page here, Riv.
Ding.
Ping, ping, ping. Over here.
You got it. Now, see, they're safe. He can ping. They are safe. It was required. So, as they make their way back in, no more aggressive wards to be, not aggressive deep wards to be placed here, but Cloud9 has definitely done a little bit more littering of the wards than TSM.
Yeah, there are a huge amount of wards, and Cloud9 has accomplished something pretty impressive. They got deep wards in both sides of TSM's jungle, so wherever TheOddOne goes, unless he's invading, Cloud9's going to know pretty much the exact location of him.
So they are going to go with the 2v1 top. It is red over here by Team Solomid as well. And we are going to get those even lanes with the AD carry support in the top lane. Dyrus to enter into battle with Rumble. Not too bad of a matchup for a Yorick versus a Rumble, so we may see them in a few minutes, but not too early.
And it's quite rare now we actually get what seems like standard lane matches because Reginald's got to be a little bit careful against High here, but the matchup I really want to talk about is this top lane one because Sneaky and LemonNation completely outrange and outpoke WildTurtle and Xpecial. But if Xpecial lands that one Thresh Lantern and they haven't been poked down enough, that's their opportunity to turn it. That is a very interesting lane.
The level is definitely going to be in favor of Team Solomid right off the bat there. That hook could change things. The disengage or the strangle, or the root We'll be able to get them out. Xpecial and WildTurtle forced under the turret as it's sneaky, actually volleying each wave. And we'll have to see where Meteos can really get in on this one, since they don't have that 2v1 setup.
And I think Cloud9's going to be pushed up to this point throughout this lane. Both Sneaky and Lemon have played that lane before in the LCS, and this is how they played it. They just kept the enemy pushed to their turret that entire laning phase, and it forced gank pressure up there from the very get-go.
And you know that gank pressure is coming from 3 early wards all the way from the blue, Wraiths, and he'll be seen at red. So Cloud9 can keep this pressure on to the last second. You see more damage. You see Xpecial now that he's leveling, trying to put that engagement on. But now that the hook's down, they can even be more aggressive here. LemonNation going to do a bit more damage. They may actually get the kill here. It gets knocked back by Condemn. Good attacks by Lemon. Got to be very careful.
Ooh. See, I really love this opening by Cloud9 because they know exactly where TheOddOne's going to be, and it allows them to make these kinds of aggressive plays. They're going to shove all the way up to the turret, maybe even think about a tower dive. They got to be careful, though, because there's an exhaust up for Xpecial and the barrier up for WildTurtle. As low as TSM got in that lane, they didn't burn summoners. So, nice play, but I don't think they're going to be able to capitalize.
TheOddOne choosing not to go to the top side. May have been maybe baited into a fight they didn't want. They said, we can stay safe for now. Ball's trying to get onto Dyrus here as he has him back to his turret. As he overheats, the trade and damage isn't there. But
and they're just hoping that Meteos can get him for Wither, at least force a flash.
There's a good hit right there. Dyrus to turn around and actually oh no, he does force the flash. So he wanted to get a bit more damage in before he went out, though.
That was a very telegraphed gank, but it was a brute force move, and it's going to allow Balls to survive in that lane. Balls says he likes picking Rumble because A, he's strong in lane, but B, if he doesn't do well in lane, he can still contribute in team fights, and Meteos trying to get in that quick start there.
So we have a 4.5-minute game already. Usually a TSM Cloud9 game, we're off to the second turrets in the side lanes here, but these guys haven't really put too much damage on the structures even. And we can see now towards the mid lane. Shouldn't be too easy to gank high. It looks like he'll stay safe on this one.
Even though Reginald could rune prison him, it's just a late gank there, getting as much harass down because they knew they couldn't get the kill pressure. I'm a little surprised TheOddOne even bothered to run in for that gank and show himself, because that gives knowledge to Cloud9 without much gain for TSM.
And are there any wards up top? Are they really just playing that strong with the lane gank ward? The bush is already in?
They got it back up right now. So they were thinking exactly what you were thinking there, Rib. They just ran out of their wards. They knew TheOddOne had shown like 10 seconds or so ago, saying, he could be coming up right now. We're out of wards. Let's go buy some. And that's hopefully what LemonNation picks up here after that health crystal. No, they don't have wards going back to that lane.
There are, they're going to have to play it safe too. WildTurtle still done very well. He's kept 33 to 35 CS, so they're not losing in any sort of way there. And 2 CS to Xpecial puts him over LemonNation, dude.
Way ahead of him.
Way ahead.
That Thresh is just going to scale like crazy. No, really. Cut the bottom lane here. Balls is now pushing back Dyrus a little bit. This is a very difficult matchup for Rumble. Dyrus sustains so well, and even though Yorick is a melee champion, he's just going to harass him down with those ghouls that seem uncounterable for Balls in the lane. So Balls has to eat through as many health potions as possible, which is why he started with that Dorn Shield. He's really just trying to sustain through this lane.
He's actually gone back already. Dyrus is kind of just hanging out in the lane. He's saying, this is fine for me. I don't even need to go back and buy. I'm scaling with you without my items. So you can see what kind of danger he will pose.
There's the gank.
TheOddOne coming in from the backside. The flash was blown from Dyrus earlier, so he may not be able to chase just as much, and they will have to back off.
And I think that's a result of Dyrus sticking in the lane for so long. He was out of mana, had no items, and had no flash. So even though TheOddOne had a well-timed gank, the cohesion wasn't there because Dyrus was not comfortable chasing. Balls might try to turn.
Whoa, throws down the equalizer on Dyrus, and he's right there in the eyes of TheOddOne, and even he's forced out.
Well, that is how you rumble right there. The key with good rumbles versus the people who just play rumble is exactly what Balls did there. You keep them slowed with your harpoon on top of your ultimate while you're flame spittering them, because it puts all your damage over times happening at the same time, and it just maximizes your damage, which is why Dyrus died so quickly there.
And this opens up the gates. Free reign for Meteos on the jungle of Team Solomid. He heads right for the red buff. This means top lane also can stay aggressive. They aren't even needing those wards that they didn't buy.
They're totally okay with this. It's all planned for Cloud9. I feel like the goal just didn't work out, and that's why they didn't buy the wards. But it does allow them to keep that type of play, which is exactly what Cloud9 wants. They need to keep, as long as all their lanes are pushing, which is the way they work, you don't actually need as much ward coverage because the jungler is forced into spots instead of being able to choose where he goes.
This is something we used to see TSM just do so much back in the day. Get a good 500-800 gold up because of that quick invade, and then make sure the jungler's pressured in every lane. Cloud9 doing it to great extent right now. Meteos going for a second red buff.
And just a quick point out, he went for a Crystalline Flask on Nasus, which is actually what a lot of jungle Nasuses do, because his Spirit Fire is so damn expensive in the jungle, you actually lose clear potential and then don't have mana for ganks if you don't go Flask, but because you go back so much, he's one of the only junglers in the game that you want to build that item on.
So what's the particular reason that he hasn't been showing presence in the top lane, the odd one that is, to help that pressure consistently?
I think it's because WildTurtle and Xpecial are saying they're doing all right. You look at the minion kills and it's 52 to 62. Vayne is farming okay against Ashe, who outranges her quite frequently. And TheOddOne is getting called on to help the other lanes. He's already tried that gank at mid lane to keep high at bay from Reggie, and then he had that bit of a disaster in the bottom lane, but the intention was to get Yorick going.
And we can see changes to the tier, but still an effective item going on to Reginald and on to Dyrus. We're still seeing it.
And it's surprising because even though we only mentioned 3 tier users as Meteos takes this dragon, Yorick is definitely in that pack. He's just not that played. So with those tier nerfs, TSM is buying into a strategy which would have been a little bit better on the 3.8 patch.
So we got a near 1505 coming up on the dragon. We'll see if they can keep eyes on that. But right now, Cloud9 extends a gold lead with only 1 kill to 2,000.
And now TheOddOne is trying to counter that last play as Ball's winning on Dyrus again. He's really dominating that lane.
Ball's definitely going to be able to get out of this. Just so much utility, and again, being able to turn the fight. Kobe says it so much when you say, kill the top lane! Beautiful shot there. All the damage sticks in these lanes. There is no sustain here from a healer, that is.
And this is another example of, this is going to sound weird, but Balls is almost warding for Cloud9. Because of how aggressive he's playing in the bottom lane, as soon as TheOddOne goes in, it tells Cloud9 that nobody is there, so they don't need the vision, and that's why they popped the Ashe arrow on Xpecial and went all in with the combos. The beautiful thing about this Cloud9 Zyra lane is if you land a root or an Ashe arrow, it means all your other crowd control will always follow it up, and that's what they did to Xpecial in that fight.
Completely stemming a lot of their advantage, or not completely, a lot of their advantages right now stemming from those early wards, that early vision of the odd one, and the pressure they have consistently put on these lanes. We actually, Reginald and I was going to say they haven't done much just yet, but he goes in on Reggie. It might have been the wrong timing. The last Q, the Let's Bounce to finish it up, and a great bait out by Team Solomid.
And they really needed that to happen. They were losing control this game, and they still may have lost it. They're still down 3,000 gold, but that was just the example of Reginald's presence in mid lane, always playing like TheOddOne is right behind him. And that time, he actually was. The first time Hyde tried to go aggressive, TheOddOne was there for a counter gank. The timing was impeccable.
So they know they need to fight. They say, we need that more. Xpecial's out of lane. WildTurtle now to farm by himself for probably the next 10 minutes. And we're going to see if they can get some hooks, they can get some fights, or just pressure something out of Cloud9 here.
And now it's the Cloud9 game has to really take off, because since they've swapped and WildTurtle hasn't mirrored, Cloud9 has to get these turrets down, because WildTurtle is going to try to freeze the lane and catch up in farm, whereas Cloud9 has to stop that from happening for TSM and really take a stranglehold on this game.
Looking at those AD carries now, it's 96 to 73. We know that Vayne is going to ramp up, so she'll still be able to participate in the fight. Nice hawk shot revealing the entire team, which just allows them to help push the lane and save a turret for now.
And I gotta commend Cloud9 here for this close to wardless strategy, even though LemonNation just did pick up a Sightstone. They're timing their hawk shots as well as communicating with the rest of the team where they've last seen TheOddOne Zac to really keep Ashe and Zyra safe this entire laning phase, even though they've lived at this turret.
There it is once again. They're trying to draw this one out. There it goes.
Look out.
Down. They throw down everything and the gauntlet along with it. Xpecial follows. It looks like they're able to get themselves out alive after the bloblets go down.
That was brutal by Cloud9. Land one crowd control, get the rest. Ashe arrow into the Zyra root, into the Zyra ultimate knockup, and they just obliterated TSM 3v2 at that turret. Really impressive play here.
Couldn't see them really wanting to fight that. Dyrus has been having a hard time. They want to make advantages for themselves. The middle one, I think, got them into a mode where they could just do it again, and it really hurt them. And
now they're trying to cascade down to the rest of the map, too, because Balls had pushed up that top lane so far. He's hoping to kill Reginald here. They might think about tower diving. TSM's got to rush down to that point in order to stop this, because we know from that last fight that Cloud9 is willing to just go in at any moment.
Cloud9 living in the jungle of Team Solomid. They have the exit and entry wards, but they're already inside the jungle, so it's where they're coming from in the fog of war right now. Meteos there now to get the Spirit Fire down. They're still getting constant damage on the turret whenever they can.
And TSM had to respond to this one, but they don't even have the health. They're getting poked down so quickly. This is exactly what Cloud9 wanted to do 3 minutes ago after they took that first turret, and they did it instantly and without making a mistake.
4-1 here. 3 turrets in favor of Cloud9. They have lost 1 death. We saw High go down on a little bit of a bait out. There's great damage coming from TheOddOne onto High and LemonNation, but cannot be followed up.
And TSM seems like they're just about 50 range short from getting all the things they want done. It's because Cloud9 is keeping such great distance in the lane and poking from the safest, most dangerous distance. They're in a place that looks very dangerous, but they're not really in danger, and that's why they're pushing so well.
Both of these teams really working with the bait strategy to get each other into the wrong spot, and it seems like both are biting a little bit on it. Obviously, TSM more so right now. That is a 7,000 gold lead, minus 600, but they're all right.
That is just a massive lead,
At
and
13,
Meteos is going to try to smite this away. Of course he would take the blue away from Reginald. Total control here from Cloud9.
See what TSM can do to reposition. Giving these guys a breather right now, they're trying to figure it out.
So one thing that can happen here for TSM is they need to take back control of their jungle so they can farm in lanes. They are down the outer 3 turrets, which, as we mentioned multiple times, is one of the most difficult things for a team to handle here in League because you lose access to your jungle, and that's why Cloud9's put down so many wards inside the TSM jungle. So with the new oracles now, Xpecial could build an oracles and go around clearing those wards, and even if he dies, he could still continue to clear the wards because he's not going to lose oracles on death. I almost feel like Xpecial has to buy that item right now just to give TSM some semblance of control in their own jungle.
Seeing more wards go down here for Cloud9. The jungle is something that TSM needs to grab back. They've only placed a few wards, but that's because those pockets are quite empty as well. Down in gold, really trying to get items that would allow them to fight. And only 15 minutes into this game, and Cloud9 looks to make it maybe one of their average time games of that 25, 28 minutes.
And they're putting on a Cloud9 clinic right now.
Yep.
13-2. They win this, they'll go to 14-2. They already have the best record at this point in the season any team has ever had in the LCS. And we can see why. They are decisive. They win the lanes 1v1, and then also have really strong team play on top of that. So TSM needs to do a lot in this game if they want to start coming back.
And even the composition they kind of choose coming in here as well. If things start to falter, you have High. High went down earlier by himself, but chooses and can go 1v1 still in these lanes.
And this was another example as Dyrus does respawn. He's going to try to chase High down. Dyrus, the Blade of the Ruined King. Dyrus was out of mana, and he was pushing up without a turret. And that's because TSM had lost control of their own jungle, and they're in kind of that farm no matter the cost mode, which is very punishable by Cloud9. Great capitalization there by High, knowing that Dyrus put himself in that situation.
Pressure on the bottom turret. Xpecial looking for the grab. They want something here. It's on the edge, just like you said, that 50 range away, but again, slips out of their fingers. Dyrus coming back up. They're going to wait for him to really engage on something. We see that dragon already going down, or almost coming up. I think, yeah, 1650.
Yeah, Cloud9 had just taken down their second dragon before this push, and this is now TSM wanting and needing to force a 4v3. Even if they were able to get in on them, as Volley is just keeping them at bay, they still might have lost it, but that was the right move for TSM. It was just that Cloud9 was ahead of the game. They saw TSM walking through the wards, and they just decided to avoid conflict if dangerous, and decided to push mid instead.
Now they are starting to focus on these turrets. They've been doing a little bit of walking around and meandering in the jungle, finding kills more than objectives. They do have that outer ring down, but it slows down for them, so they are taking it accordingly.
And all this back and forth that TSM is doing in the jungle, nice hook on a sneaky, might see the fight.
Throw down the box, will he be able to get it around? There goes Stranglethorn as well. Xpecial goes up and goes down. Reginald puts himself right in the fight. They get the first DPS down, and it looks like WildTurtle will be able to follow. It's exactly what they needed. Dyrus is running from balls right now in the fight, and it looks like High will have to do the same.
They look to come
back with the team. Entering the lane, they say, this is your exit and your entrance.
Whoa.
As they go down.
They just had to walk through the fire there. The ball's put down with Equalizer, and it all went wrong from there. TSM did get what they needed with that thresh hook to start it, but it wasn't enough because, as we said, all of that jungle was warded by Cloud9, so Cloud9 could see TSM walking back and forth and knew whatever fight TSM got, Cloud9 would be ready for it, and that's why they're able to come around the back and turn that one around.
And such an extended fight as well. It seemed like Cloud9 just kind of walked around, kited it out until they got the position they wanted in it, really.
And it's the control team fights we talked about. We knew they would have a lot of control in these team fights just because of the amount of crowd control that they picked into this composition just based off Zyra Ashe. They're adding most of it, and they have low crowd control mid laners that just supply a lot of damage. I really love this Cloud9 composition as they open up a 50% gold lead on TSM.
2-0 and 1 balls in the top lane. He was able to find himself a good kill in the early part of the game. He has 6,900 gold right now against Dyrus 4,600, who would have been the other top laner. So that's a bit of a difference.
When you said 6,900 gold, I thought we were looking at the 80 carries because he's almost at 7,000 as well, which is just the same ahead of WildTurtle. Oh, man.
High, once again, that history kind of repeats itself thing comes around once more. Does he have the blade still? Looks like he actually used it, but he'll be able to get out of this one. Hex Drinker coming up on the backside to keep him safe.
Dyrus really wants to get something back, but the shadow goes up, and once again, Dyrus was trying to farm at all costs and is just so punishable by Cloud9 because High has the damage to kill him, and Dyrus doesn't have the freedom right now due to him being starved of gold to build defensive items when fighting against High.
Is it safe to say Dyrus actually picking up a giant spout that first time High killed him? Now the second time didn't help him as much, but he's just staying there alive to be able to focus a Vayne or a Rise with his ultimate in these late fights that go kind of extended?
He's trying to do that, exactly. He's trying to make sure that they can duplicate the Rise or the Vayne, but the Rise or the Vayne haven't gotten there yet. TSM's still holding out a little bit of hope that that's what Dyrus can do. He's going to try to be the tank line that at least distracts Sneaky and LemonNation in these fights, but it is so one-sided right now that even though that could be a sound strategy, it's just too one-sided at this point.
Looking at these items finished up here, the Infinity Edge, the Blade of the Rune King, and the Rylai's Crystal Scepter compared to the Rod of Ages, the Spirit of the Golem, and a Blade. There's so much more damage just off the front end burst. Now, LemonNation, look how confident they can be right now, standing in the face of 3.
And I don't think Cloud9's put a ward on their side of the map in the last 10 minutes because they've been living in TSM's jungle, and that's why this gold lead continues to increase. TSM doesn't get access to their own jungle, and they're still losing these turrets.
I was going to say, why haven't they started pushing turrets soon, but they finally get back into that mode. It looks like they go with this wave right here. We got High in the top lane as well, looking to still 1v1 assassinate, making the impact.
Oh, look, ow!
TheOddOne gets taken out immediately.
Just all the spells just jumping onto TheOddOne, and there was no follow-up. The arrow snipes.
A High wanted that so bad. They said, let's do it, but they don't. You can see the kind of potential they think they have and maybe even could have.
Yeah, that was a rare miscommunication by Cloud9, throwing the arrow out and then deciding to back off because this is the fight they want. They want to take it straight up the mid lane.
They've taken out the Zac. That initiation becomes a little bit easier. They're going straight for the turret right here. Very good focus, just dodging out the damage, microing each other in and out. It looks like they got to play it safe here, though.
And Cloud9 is down a fair amount of ultimates right now, which is why TSM's trying to fight.
Oh, that was the shadow. It was not the follow by High, though. He stays on the backside. The ultimates are up, except for LemonNation's. And that's really the first time we've seen them back off a fight when they don't have that big disengage.
They had used the Ashe Arrow plus the Zyra ult, and even Equalizer was down. So they're saying, just give us a second. We know we win. Maybe Dyrus will come fight us alone.
Oh, man, they tried. They just wanted the wards. It's going to be Xpecial. TheOddOne comes in. WildTurtle's on the outside. The focus is him. He goes almost down instantly, but he's able to trade back down to 15% health for him. He flashes away, but it's going to be the chase from Meteos and balls right now. And there is just too much damage and too much pressure coming out from Cloud9 right now. They will finalize it. The flash, the Q crush, and the Meteos kill.
The flash Q. I'd always... Back when every Nasus would just bring Ghost, it'd be like, why would you ever bring Flash? And it was the joke that we brought. It's so he can Flash Q people. And he did. He just Flash Q'd for the kill right there. That was Cloud9 buying just enough time. The Rumble ult came back up exactly when they wanted to, and Cloud9 picked up an ace after already having a gargantuan lead, which is only going to be extended by this Baron.
There's just too many threats to deal with in this fight for WildTurtle. He had not fun in that one, and the whole team really was doing their own thing. So Baron going over, Meteos able to grab that for his team. Cloud9 now up 15,000 gold.
Yeah, Cloud9 was up 30,000 to 20,000. They just gained 10,000 gold in the time it took TSM to gain 5,000. They are skyrocketing past TSM in this game, and I feel like they're going to be looking to end this one pretty quick. Cloud9 doesn't mess around when they have a lead.
little bit of harassment here from LemonNation. Looks like they will watch the first dragon go down in favor, well, the third dragon of the game. The first one now for Team Solomid here. As that gets dropped down, they are starting to grab a little bit of gold, but it's going to be a long road.
I almost feel like TSM should try to shop after this one and just hope that that little bit of dragon gold can give them some type of force in these next team fights. But yeah, TSM should try to pull off something sneaky, because in any type of 5v5 situation, even if Cloud9 dives them, TSM is savvy enough about the game to know that that's not going to work out for them. TSM's trying to pull off something miraculous here.
And they're not going to be able to. Cloud9's roaming in only pairs. Bottom half goes, it was High and LemonNation. Then you saw Meteos and Sneaky running around together. There's not going to be that one catch out that you could get onto somebody that Reginald really wants or WildTurtle can condemn against the wall. So Cloud9 is doing everything appropriately to stop that comeback from being there for TSM.
You'd almost say they're using like the buddy system. I was saying like friendship can't save you, but in this case, friendship is keeping them together and alive as they want to push down mid.
Going for the turtle. Nope. Meteos wants that Q. He just wants to get up. There it is. Oh my gosh. He almost took it himself from about 25%. We're going to get this damage onto the inhibitor. Opening this one up means the outer lanes get stronger now for Cloud9 and those minions, so more pushing to come in.
And they got a lot of time left on the Baron still, so they're going to be pushing all around the horn here. The most exposed turret is this one. Brilliant ward there by LemonNation. I wouldn't say brilliant. That's a standard ward that pros do. If you're playing in your normal games and you want to take out that turret, put that ward there before it comes, because now everywhere TSM goes, complete vision if they want to dive.
They have one free inhibitor, which means that is going to be locked down by Dyrus. They will be a 4-man hold onto this turret, which means Meteos walk himself in. Reginald catches it on the backside. So much crowd control. They lay down the equalizer where the flashes would have gone. Balls with such a nice fight, and it looks like they're able to clear it out for the next inhibitor turret.
The angle on that equalizer was so perfect. It hit 3 members of TSM like 1,000 units away from each other. He just, from start to finish, saw where that was going to be perfectly and landed it.
They get this inhibitor turret with ease. The inhibitor will go down as well. They have a nice wave in mid. The bottom one is pushed up quite far, but they may just have enough to go back and forth and take down these Nexus turrets face to face.
They still have this Baron buff on. I feel like they're just going to push in because there's still 3 members of TSM dead, and now probably 5.
A Nexus turret goes down along with WildTurtle. They're looking with eyes on the Nexus. Cloud9 looks to make themselves 14-2 in the summer split. TSM with one last do to say about it, and it looks like Dyrus will be going down. Still following the TheOddOne onto the fountain. Balls looks for a few more kills to pad the KDA. High is forced to ninja out, and they ninja the game right away from Team Solomid.
20 kills to 4, an incredibly decisive victory here for Cloud9, extending their lead on the rest of the league. They're good right now.
Just domination. Where was there a falter ever by them? High went down in mid because he was trying to get a kill, and after that they said, if we're not sure about the kill, don't do it. And we saw that. They backed off of an enchanted crystal arrow that hit square on.
Yeah, this was a good game by Cloud9. That's one they walk away from, and it's almost a little worrisome because TSM's one of their biggest rivals because they're so close with them, and they destroyed them. So as a team, Cloud9 actually has to worry about not getting complacent now if they're winning with such ease.
And we have to consider what happened there. High went down first to Reginald, and they were able to come back on that. High said in his interview that if I go down to Reginald, they're usually going to take the game. But they weren't able to roam anywhere. Not always at all.
Sometimes in the LCS, it's a little bit different. If I die to Reggie, oh, we can go home, guys. Good game. That's why we play.
That's one of the things we've heard from even